very hard mathematical problem. That's when gamma is seen.
I
So
have zero gamma.
no, you might be having a lot of gamma because of your. So PLOS One is one of the very highly rated journals in the field of life sciences, and this was published there. So this was studied by again Rail Khan and group. So this was done at Rishikesh. So they recruited practitioners from three different meditation traditions. One is Himalayan yoga tradition, one is Vipassana, and other is Isha. So they compared Isha Shunya with these Vipassana and Himalayan yoga. So what they this was an EEG study. So EEG is electroencephalography. So our brain it works in an electrochemical manner. That is, whatever communication is happening in the brain, it happens via electrical and chemical means. So there's an ongoing electrical activity in the brain all the time. So what they do is they place electrodes on the person, electrode cap. It looks like a cap only, proper cap, and then they ask the participants to meditate, for example, and then they observe, they pick up the activity. The electrodes pick up the activity, and it transmits this activity to the computer. So what we observe is all these oscillations, brain oscillations, which range in frequency. Like for example, there are delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, beta waves, gamma waves. So each one has a particular frequency. So any wave has certain parameters called frequency, amplitude, uh, and wavelength. So if the wave falls in the frequency range zero point 0.5 to 4 hertz, it's called as delta wave. To 7 hertz, it's called as theta wave. 7 to 13, it's called as alpha. 13 to 30 is called as beta, and above 30 is called as gamma. So in this study, they understood gamma oscillations. Uh,
So how
Again,
is this relating to general day-to-day states like wakefulness and sleep
yes,
and
yes. So these brain oscillations play a role in every aspect of our life, starting from wakefulness to sleep. For example, in deep sleep, you observe these delta waves. There's a part of sleep called as slow wave sleep, which is the deepest part of our sleep. One has highest relaxation. It is also called as a dreamless sleep state. So in that state, one observes these delta oscillations, and
right?
also when one is in anesthesia, one is given anesthesia, these delta waves are seen. So like that, for example, alpha waves. If somebody is like just if I just close my eyes right now, I there's an alpha in my brain. So it indicates wakeful relaxation, and theta is observed when one is very relaxed, much more relaxed than usual states, like how we see in meditation studies by meditation practitioners, for example. And beta is generally seen during any day-to-day activity. For example, right now we both are interacting. This is where there's beta being produced in the brain. And then there is gamma, which is seen only when one is doing something very cognitively challenging, something, say, a very hard mathematical problem. That's when gamma is seen.
I have
So
zero gamma.
no, you might be having a lot of gamma because of your long-term
I
meditation
don't do
practice.
mathematical problems.
No, but you do meditation, so that is a very good marker of
Yeah.
this thing. So overall, what these indicators, it uh, so brain regions, like it functions in networks. There are several regions. For example, when you're doing any particular task, there are several brain regions which are active. For example, right now you're listening to me, you're seeing me, you're also paying attention to me, you're making learning from this, you're forming memories, and then you're interpreting it uh, based on your experiences of life. So there are several things which are happening parallelly in the brain all the time. So these oscillations, what they do is they make sure that these brain regions work in harmony. They coordinate. So these oscillations kind of synchronize this brain activity, brain
Mm.
regions responsible for all these different things. So, in this paper, they focused on these gamma oscillations, which high gamma oscillations, which range from 60 to 110 hertz. So far, what the studies show is that these brain oscillations are a very good marker of meditation depth. For example, if somebody is like, say, trained in meditation for say 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, that is enough to produce alpha, like more alpha actually. It's called as high alpha power. Even normal people without any meditation also, if they just close their eyes, there's alpha produced in the back of the brain, back of occipital region, it's called as. So this is like which is seen in like almost everybody who closes their eyes. And then comes the theta oscillations, which are generally seen only in those with very good meditation experience. Say somebody who has 2 years of meditation practice sees theta oscillations, and gamma is generally not seen in you know most people. Even most meditators, gamma is not seen. It is only seen in those with very high meditation practice. Say
Mhm.
somebody with more than 10,000 hours of meditation practice, or somebody like monks, or somebody who is leading a lifestyle which is fully dedicated to meditation. Only in such kind of people you see gamma. So, and gamma is also
Outside of meditation, do we see this in
yes. For
people?
example, yeah. For example, if you do anything very challenging, you see gamma,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
like a mathematical problem, or some programming challenge.
Right.
So during uh, when eyes are closed, nobody has ever observed gamma oscillations outside of meditation practice.
Ah.
So that is one thing which is very fascinating, and nobody actually really understands what this very high gamma means. Except that one thing which it indicates is it indicates a very high levels of attention. For example, somebody who is in say state of samyama, somebody who is in state of this dhyana, like total immersion in one's object of attention. In only those people, gamma is seen, and even in our lab where we are working on a lot of different meditation practitioners, we see gamma in only those people who have more than 10 years of meditation practice. And even in my study, my PhD study, I see gamma only in those who have done samyama, not in those who have done just shambhavi, for example. So, so basically, to sum it up, uh, alpha, theta, and gamma are a very good indicator of meditation depth. Somebody who tells that he's in a very deep meditative state, simplest thing to do is like just check their brain waves. If you see gamma, it indicates that they're in a very deep meditation state. For example, this was mentioned by Sadhguru actually once. They did one study on him like long back, and then they observed these gamma oscillations.
Mm-hmm.
There's one anecdote which he shares like often. So it's
That
like
they saw that he was brain dead. They said that you're brain dead.
yes, yeah, that one.
Uh-huh.
So that was
Yeah.
actually very high gamma activity.
Mm-hmm.
So only in people of that state, gamma is seen, a very high meditation practice. So this study tried to understand this gamma between these three groups. Table one. So what you see is controls. CTR is controls. HYT is Himalayan Yoga Group. ISY is Isha Yoga Group, and VIP is Vipassana Yoga Group. And it also indicates hours of meditation practice. So controls had no meditation practice. Himalayan Yoga had 15,000 hours of meditation practice. This plus or minus indicates standard deviation. Isha Yoga had 2,625 and Vipassana had 9,200. So in all these three groups, Isha Yoga practitioners had the lowest meditation experience. But still, there was gamma seen in all these three groups equally. So it actually could be because of a lot of hatha yoga as well. Because of hatha yoga practice, the depth of meditation in Isha yoga might be much higher with even low hours of meditation practice.
Right. So this was um, uh, done on Shunya participants, people who practice
Shunya.
the Shunya meditation.
Right,
For those of
right.
you who don't know, Shunya meditation is conducted, I think, as a 4-day, 5-day residential program at the Isha Yoga Center. So two practices are taught in this. One is the Shakti Chalana Kriya, and the other aspect is the Shunya meditation. Shunya, as they put it, is doing nothing.
There is one interesting thing because this doing nothing is so difficult because there was one study which was done in 2010, I think, which was published in the journal Science, which asked people just to sit and do nothing for 7 to 14 minutes. And what they observed was that these people found it so difficult to do nothing that they rather gave themselves electrical shocks than doing nothing. So they wanted to do something, even if it is very negative, like giving electrical shocks. It's actually very difficult to do nothing, and Shunya is what trains you to do nothing.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is what overall they observed in the study. So what you see here on the x-axis is frequency. As I told, brain oscillations have different frequencies. So that frequency is indicated on the x-axis. So anything above 60 that you see here is high gamma activity. And what you see on the y-axis is amplitude. So it's called power basically, amplitude squared. Basically, every oscillation, every wave has an amplitude. That is the peak, from the baseline to the peak. How much is the difference? That is the amplitude. Amplitude squared is power. So more power indicates that more of that amplitude in the that particular brain oscillation. So here you have four different colors: Vipassana, Isha Yoga, Hatha Yoga, and controls. So as you can see, the blue color is the controls. The blue color line, the lowest, is the controls, and all the other meditative traditions, they all had higher gamma than these controls. So what this indicates is that uh, irrespective of tradition, if somebody does something with commitment and with dedication, then one reaps benefits. And but one thing which is very interesting, which I should highlight, is that among all these groups, Isha Yoga practitioners had the lowest number of hours of meditation practice.
Right.
So basically, this task had two conditions. One is the meditation condition, that is when they are asked to do shunya, and other is control condition, when they're asked to uh, it's like mind wandering. It's called as IMW, instructed mind wandering condition, wherein they're told to be not in that meditative state. So A has both these conditions, and B has only meditation condition. So we can just look at B. So if you see at B, what you see is basically this is called as topography plot, wherein you observe it's like this entire scalp is on a two-dimensional thing.
Okay.
You observe from the top. So the ones with hotter color, that is, the power is given on the heat map which is given below. Anything which is hotter color, that is red, more reddish color, indicates more activity. So anything which is yellowish in color, it indicates low power. So if you see at the back of the head and in the front of the head, there is more gamma activity when compared to controls. So if you see the middle figure is for the controls minus Isha Yoga practitioners. If you see the middle figure of B, what we are seeing is the difference in brain activity in the gamma frequency range between controls and Isha Yoga practitioners.
Right.
So there is more gamma power in the frontal regions and the back, which is the occipital regions in the meditation practitioners compared to controls. This is a simple graph which indicates how the gamma activity is more in these different groups. So compared to controls, all the other practitioners had more gamma power. So what you see in the middle, there's a line in each of these graphs, which is the median score. The median score is more in all the meditation practitioners. And if you see the figure D, this is basically the correlation between meditation practice and gamma activity. So as I told, the more one does meditation, the more likely, the more
It's
not
directly
just
proportional.
it's proportional. It's not just one does meditation, but also one does it intensely. It's not like, for example, I do meditation for 10 years, but I do it very,
Quality of the meditation.
without any intensity at all. Then
Right.
you might not find this gamma. So it's all about intensity of practice. So this intensity of practice is correlated with this gamma. So the more meditation experience, here indicated in terms of number of hours, there's a more of this gamma. That's where the red line is like it's going up.
Right. So this, if you, for example, if you were to translate this, like you said, that gamma is seen in people who do, complex mathematical problems or whatever problem-solving aspects. So this will definitely have, like, supposing somebody accesses this, this gamma frequency in their brains via meditation. So this can lead to them, this translating into other tasks in their life. So if one, for example, does not do mathematical problems and all of that, and they access this through meditation instead, so this would translate into their problem-solving capabilities, the way they, handle such situations or such intense problems in a different way, would it?
Yes, definitely. This is one thing which can be easily tapped into. For example, not everybody can do complex mathematics. Not everybody can be Einsteins. But with simple meditation practice, one can be in that state which, say, Einstein would be in.
So
With
sort
just
of tap into that power in your brain, which allows you to do that.
Yes. And this actually gamma also is correlated with BDNF. So the more gamma, there is more neuroplasticity and more BDNF.
Right.
So in that way, this is like quite fascinating. So this is the summary of the overall paper. So they observed high gamma power in all these three meditation traditions compared to controls. That is in the 60 to 110 hertz frequency range. And what this overall indicates is a very high level of attention which these meditators have compared to controls. And this also influences one's everyday behavior. For example, you are more in the moment when you're doing simple daily tasks because of that attention compared to those with no meditation practice. So you're equally intense and involved in all your daily activities and not just meditation.
Right, because just thinking about it, because a lot of Sadhguru's teachings also, and if you read spiritual texts and all, they all emphasize on being completely involved in whatever task that you're doing. So when you're walking, just walk. When you're eating, just eat. So I wonder how this plays into that maybe somebody is not doing a very, solving a very complex mathematical problem. Maybe they're just sweeping the floor, but because they meditate, their, gamma frequencies are like lighting up on the, on the thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's actually, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the essence of spiritual practice, isn't it?
yes.
Like totally involved in every activity that we are doing.